My sister wants her boyfriend to have his fantasy with me. I, 24F, am in the middle of a family crisis that's tearing me apart, and I need some outside perspective to make sure I'm not making a horrible mistake. This is a long and complicated story involving family betrayal, manipulation, legal troubles, and now an unborn child. I apologize in advance for the length, but I feel like the details are important. I'm the youngest of 3 sisters, Olivia, 30F, Emma, 28F, and me, Sophia, 24F. Growing up, our family dynamic was complex, to say the least. Olivia, the oldest, always played the role of the perfect daughter. She excelled in school, had a thriving social life, and seemed to effortlessly meet our parents' every expectation. Emma was the rebellious middle child, always pushing boundaries and getting into trouble, but she had a charm that often got her out of serious consequences. And then there was me. I was the quiet one, the peacemaker, always trying to smooth things over when Olivia and Emma fought. It was often. I looked up to both my sisters, but as we got older, I started to see the cracks in our family facade. Olivia's perfectionism had a dark side. She was manipulative, always finding ways to make herself look good at others' expense. She'd volunteer me for things without asking, then play the hero when I struggled to keep up. She'd accidentally let slip embarrassing details about Emma to our parents, then console her afterwards, building resentment between them while making herself look caring. Emma, for her part, seemed to delight in causing chaos. She'd start fights between Olivia and our parents, then sit back and watch the fallout. She borrowed money constantly but never paid it back, always having some dramatic reason why she couldn't. Her rebellions got more serious as we got older, skipping school, experimenting with drugs, dating guys our parents hated. I tried to stay neutral, to be the sister they could both confide in without taking sides. But it was exhausting. As I got older, I started to resent the role I'd been forced into. I wanted my own life, my own identity, outside of being the family mediator. Things came to a head about 2 years ago. When I was 22, I had just graduated college and landed my dream job at a tech startup. For the first time, I felt like I was stepping out of my sister's shadows and building my own life. That's when Olivia's manipulations took a dark turn. Olivia had been dating a guy named Jason for about 6 months. He was older, late 30s, successful, and charismatic. Something about him always felt off to me. He'd make inappropriate comments when Olivia wasn't around, or I'd catch him staring at me in a way that made my skin crawl. I tried to talk to Olivia about it, but she brushed off my concerns, saying I was imagining things, or being overly sensitive. One night, Olivia invited me over to their apartment for dinner. She said she wanted to celebrate my new job and mend some of the tension that had been building between us. I was hesitant, but hopeful that maybe we could start to build a healthier relationship. When I arrived, Jason was there alone. He said Olivia was running late from work, and asked me to have a drink with him while we waited. I reluctantly agreed, not wanting to seem rude. As we sat on the couch, Jason started inching closer to me, making comments about how I was the pretty sister, and how Olivia didn't appreciate what she had. I was uncomfortable and tried to change the subject, but he kept pushing. Suddenly, he lunged at me, trying to kiss me and pin me to the couch. I shoved him off and ran for the door, but it was locked. As I was fumbling with the lock, terrified, I heard laughter behind me. I turned to see Olivia standing there, a smirk on her face. "Oh, Sophia?" she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "Did you really think Jason would be interested in a plain little thing like you? I just wanted to prove a point, that you're not as special as you think you are with your fancy new job." I was stunned. My own sister had set me up to be assaulted, all to knock me down a peg. I finally got the door open and ran out, ignoring Olivia's calls behind me. I was shaking, crying, and felt utterly betrayed. When I got home, I found Emma waiting for me. Apparently, Olivia had called her, spinning some story about how I had tried to seduce Jason. Emma, to her credit, didn't believe it for a second. She helped me calm down and encouraged me to report what happened to the police. The next few weeks were a blur of police reports, family fights, and emotional turmoil. Jason was arrested for attempted sexual assault, and it turned out there had been previous complaints against him that Olivia had helped cover up. Olivia was charged as an accessory, but she managed to plea bargain her way into probation and mandatory therapy. Our parents were devastated. They couldn't understand how their perfect daughter could do something so terrible. Emma stepped up in a way I never expected, fiercely defending me and helping me navigate the legal process. For the first time, I felt like I had an ally in my family. Cut off all contact with Olivia. Emma did the same. Our parents tried to encourage reconciliation, saying that families should stick together, but Emma and I stood firm. We started to build a closer relationship with each other, finally free from Olivia's manipulations. For about a year and a half, things were peaceful. I threw myself into my work, started therapy to deal with the trauma of what happened, and began to build a life for myself outside of my family's drama. Emma got sober, went back to school, and seemed to be turning her life around. We'd get together once a week for sister nights, just the two of us, and I finally felt like I had the supportive sibling relationship I'd always wanted. Then, 3 months ago, Olivia came crashing back into our lives. It started with desperate voicemails and texts. She'd lost her job due to her criminal record, Jason was in prison, and she was about to be evicted from her apartment. Emma and I ignored her messages, feeling like it was just another manipulation tactic. But then came the bombshell. Olivia was pregnant. Apparently, she'd found out just after Jason's arrest but had kept it quiet. Now, she was 6 months along, unemployed, and facing homelessness. Emma and I were conflicted. On one hand, Olivia had done something unforgivable. On the other, there was an innocent child involved. We agreed to meet her in a public place, hear her out. The Olivia we met was a far cry from the polished, put-together sister we remembered. She was thin, pale, with dark circles under her eyes. She broke down crying as soon as she saw us, begging for forgiveness and help. She swore she'd changed, that the pregnancy had made her realize how terrible her actions were. She said she had nowhere else to turn. Our parents had finally reached their limit, cut her off financially. Emma, always the softie despite her tough exterior, was wavering. Talked about letting Olivia stay with her until she got back on her feet. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just another of Olivia's manipulations, perhaps her most desperate one yet. I told Olivia in no uncertain terms that while I hoped she'd get the help she needed, I wanted nothing to do with her or her child. The trauma of what she'd done was still too fresh, and I didn't trust her not to use the baby to manipulate us in the future. Olivia became hysterical, alternating between begging and threatening. She said if we didn't help her, she'd tell everyone that we'd abandoned her in her time of need, that we were letting our future niece or nephew suffer out of pettiness. She even threatened to hurt herself if we didn't agree to take her in. I stood firm, but I could see Emma wavering. In that moment, I made a decision that's been haunting me ever since. I told Emma that if she helped Olivia, I'd cut her off too. I couldn't stand the thought of losing the healthy relationship we'd built, having Olivia's toxicity seep back into my life, even indirectly. Emma was torn, but ultimately she sided with me. We left Olivia sobbing in the cafe, ignoring her screams as we walked away. That was a month ago. Since then, Olivia's attempts to contact us have grown more and more desperate. She's shown up at our workplaces, sent messages through family friends, and even tried to reach out to my therapist. Last week, she was arrested for trespassing when she tried to break into Emma's apartment.